I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're very pleased to be talking to Jen Andrews, CEO of Shelby Farms Park Conservancy. Did I say that right, Jen?
Just one park.
Just one park conservancy. So stay with us for a conversation with Jen. And a special thanks to our sponsor, Youth Villages. Jen, thanks for helping me in the intro. I've been out for a while, and I was a little rusty, and so I got the name wrong.
That's all right, I got you.
Good. It has been a while. I think the last time I interviewed you, we've written about Shelby Farms and all that, but the paper, but I think it was in COVID.
Yeah.
I think we were staring blankly at each other at a Zoom screen going, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, when every single person in the whole city was here at the park every single day.
Yeah. What did you learn from that? I mean, one, that people love parks and they want to be outdoors, but beyond that, were there things you sort of have embraced even now that came out of that experience?
Well, I think what I learned in terms of running an organization is how much people value flexibility in their work, and also how productive and effective we can be when we give people flexibility. You know, of all the places to work, working in a park should be a wonderful experience. And, you know, we decided early on to really focus on results rather than monitoring effort. And so I feel like we learned a lot about trusting our team, trusting each other, collaboration. Our mission has never been clearer. It was just right in front of our face every single day. People talked about their time at the park in such dramatic and meaningful terms. We would get emails saying, this park is saving my life.
Yeah.
This park is my respite. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't come here. And we saw that right in front of us every single day. So it was incredibly stressful, but it was also really special. I mean, we lost all of our earned revenue overnight, like a lot of people did. 50% of our income is earned revenue. So our brag point had been, you know, we're a park conservancy that's actually a really successful business. And then all of a sudden our biggest brag point became our biggest risk.
Yeah. And earned revenue for people outside is things like rentals of facilities and people coming, the vending. And
so if you rent our event center to have your wedding or your corporate meeting, those funds actually go right back into taking care of the park. And that's what we call earned revenue, as opposed to contributed support, which would be fundraising. So maybe you give an annual gift or your company sponsors some of our events like Starry Nights. But earned revenue is really a series of small businesses that we operate in order to generate enough money to take care of this park in a world-class way, which is the commitment that we've made.
Well, it's funny I hadn't been out here in a minute, and we're out at your office, I should say, because people can't see us sitting in your beautiful office overlooking the lake and all that. It is, every time I am out here, it is so striking how the scale of the park, not just, it's 4,500 acres and we can all know that number, but the amount of trails and the amount of landscape. And some of it, I'm sure, just does its own thing, but a lot of it doesn't. And you've got the water, and you've got the rental facilities, and you've got the big playgrounds. And it's a facility on some level, a series of facilities, which is really wonderful, and clearly wonderful at spring break as we're doing this. There's people all over the place. But I'm just assuming there's people all over the place all the time here.
Sure. That
earned revenue number is unique and not typical. I mean, I say that as somebody, as I've mentioned before, I think when we first met, I was still on the board of Overton Park. You know, the mission of Overton Park and all parks on some level is to be a free and open park available to everyone.
Yes.
Now try to pay for it.
Yes. And for us, we keep really, really clear about why we do what we do. We don't exist to earn money. We're really proud of the way that we operate our business. Especially as a nonprofit, you know, having those sort of for-profit style business lines, we do it really well, and we're proud of that. But we don't exist to earn money. We earn money so that we can provide the park free and open to everybody all the time, every single day of the year.
Yeah. I should turn that into a pitch for Daily Memphian, because we're a nonprofit that tries to run like a business.
Right.
And it's actually, I'm curious, this, not to make about Daily Memphian, but I was just at a big conference with a lot of nonprofit local news organizations, startups, and some that have been around for 10 years or more. And there is tremendous wariness, not among everyone, but you would maybe or maybe not be surprised. I'm curious your take on this. How resistant the philanthropic community nationally, not locally, and the nonprofit local news sites are that we charge for subscriptions, sell advertising, and generally operate the Daily Memphian like a business. There is a huge streak of people who are like, it should all be free, and you should just have philanthropy to pay all your bills, and you should not do anything else. And I'm like, well, there's a part of me, sure, I love local news. That's why I've committed myself to this work. but we can't have a newsroom of 40 people if we're just doing philanthropy. And we've raised a lot of philanthropy. But I don't know, do you get pushback on charging for certain things and some of the earned revenue that, although you and I and many other people are like, well, that's awesome. But do you, in the park community nationally, is there resistance to that model?
No, not nationally.
Good.
I would say when we were in the design phase, there definitely was understandable anxiety about things that felt different than what we had been in the past, which Shelby Farms Park was sort of the sleepy East Memphis park that was sort of a secret that people wanted to keep, and we came in with a sort of radical reclaiming of what this park should and could be to the community, truly a park for everybody. But in order to maintain it at the level that we wanted to, we knew that we were going to have to supplement what public dollars were available. We do have some hard lines, though. I will never charge people to come into this park. That's a hard line. We also are super thoughtful about the mix of things that we offer for free and the things that we charge for. And some of the things that we charge for would be recreation opportunities, like renting a paddleboard or a kayak or a canoe. We have hard costs built into that. In order to offer that to the public, we have to pay staff. We have to buy and maintain the equipment. We have to operate a facility. So, we're not trying to get rich at all, but certainly not off, renting out bikes or kayaks or canoes or the water playground. But we do have to offset our costs like a responsible business. But the vast majority of things you do at this park are and always will be free.
How many years are we from that? What was the name of the big...
The heart of the park.
Heart of the park. Is that 5 years, 10 years now?
It'll be 10 years next year.
Yeah, 10 years. That sort of bit of resistance you talked about, people kind of like that it was the sleepy, sort of, we don't necessarily want more people, more stuff. Did some of that probably came from people who are like, I have this hidden secret and we get to come here and there's not a lot of people. Did some of it come from let's not put the park back on the radar? I mean, people who haven't been here a long time and people who I'm sure outside your window who are walking around this park have no idea the fight, the really existential fight that took place over many years about this park and the road and the future. Was that also feed into sort of, let's not raise the profile again? We survived that. Let's just take a beat.
I'm not from here, and I was not living here when a lot of these debates were happening before our organization existed. I did come to really understand where people's fears were based. So it seemed like almost every idea that anybody had for this piece of property, up until then had been kind of scary and potentially a threat. I also think there is a scarcity mindset sometimes in a community, this one in particular, that we are afraid to lose something that we feel is good, even if we have to take a small risk to get something better. We really firmly believe that this city deserves great parks, great public amenities, and we think that we can have them. It's not easy to get there, but we really think that people deserve that. So part of the work we were trying to do was to help people set a new benchmark for what your expectations should be in the public realm. We don't have to settle. We can have better, but it's going to take a big community effort and a heavy lift to get there. I wouldn't say that the majority of the feedback I heard in those early days was misplaced. I think it was just fearful. They valued the land. They valued the wide open spaces in city. I mean, no, there are no other cities that have 4,500 acres of green space in the middle of population density of the region.
Right.
They highly, highly valued that. And so they were really afraid that what we were going to do was going to change it in a negative way. It didn't. And I think we've built a lot of trust.
Yeah.
But also in the early days, I understand why people were worried about that. And ultimately, it just showed that people care.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a similar story. I mean, I was talking to you before we started. I recorded a thing over at WKNO. It wasn't behind the headlines, but it was kind of adjacent to it about the 40-year anniversary of the Wolf River Conservancy. Mm-hmm. There's a version of their story that matches that. Yes. That they, Wolf River was a drainage ditch. It was polluted like so many waterways in the United States. A group of people got together, took control of some of the land, kind of began to clean things up, stopped a lot of the pollution, and then felt like, well, we don't want to go too much farther. Some of them, not all of them, understandably. I mean, because look where we were, look where we've gotten. And then the group came in, and Keith Cole, the longtime executive director who stepped down a couple of years ago, and he was on this little roundtable I did, talked about how, we needed to go to a next level of beginning to acquire land, becoming an actual land trust. And now they have 20,000 acres. And I know you all work with them and all that. It's just, Overton Park has a version of that. Like there was some resistance to not to preserving it once they preserved it, like, well, what are you going to do with this thing? We preserved it. And obviously there were lots of fights on the river about Tom Lee Park, and all that dust hasn't settled even yet, you know? So it's interesting that, it comes from a lot of places. I think when I was on Overton Park, I would get impatient with people, but then I'd also have to listen and say, this is coming from a place of care, not from a place of just outright hostility. It's just coming from, you, Eric, don't understand the long decades history, in that case, of Overton Park.
I think it takes time to build trust. We launched our first capital campaign right before the recession hit in 2008. So, it was great. So big
You were
press
development
release.
director then, right? Or
I was marketing.
Marketing. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Way to go.
I put out a big press release announcing this big lead gift that we had. We thought we would close it in a year. And then the recession hit and we had to go back to the drawing board. But we had raised just under $20 million, before we launched the public part of the campaign. And so what the board decided to do, which I think was really smart, was do demonstration projects that would go ahead and deliver some public benefit and also show people the kind of work that we were capable of in terms of our design ambition, but also that we were only exclusively interested in doing great things for the public. That's all we wanted to do. So in that round of projects for the Woodland Discovery Playground, which I think, has been an incredible success. The Wolf River Pedestrian Bridge, which for the first time connected people over the Wolf River so you could get to the park from the south on bike or on foot, very heavily used. And then the Green Line, which people forget that Shelby Farms Park Conservancy also manages. So it's 4,500 acres plus almost 12 miles of Green Line. And of all of the incredibly sophisticated, beautiful, award-winning architecture we've built here and the incredible amenities we've built, paving that straight strip of asphalt over an old railroad line might be the most transformative thing that we've ever done. Yeah. I think it built so much trust in the community. It also showed people that we could set a goal that was going to be hard and we could see it through and we could do it. And then that we would manage it effectively so that it would be safe and clean and usable and a positive contributor to the communities that it touches. The Green Line actually turns 15 this year, which is shocking to me that it's been 15 years since we opened it.
I was talking with the Wolf River people, and I use that example. I think that, to me, I've been in Memphis coming up on 30 years, and that Green Line and the fight around it that wasn't about even resistance. That was just like, well, this is stupid. It's a waste of money. No one will go. It'll be unsafe. The property owners will have to build higher fences. All these things that really the exact opposite has proven to be true, and with all the greenways and Green Line type things that have been going in. But that, to me, it took such a fight, but there were a lot of really great civic-minded people who said, no, we're going to do this fight, and we're going to do it, and it's going to work. Trust us. And it did. It paved the way for this and so many other things.
Totally. We were always confident that it would be great and that people would love it. We felt the same way about the heart of the park, the playground, all of the things that we built. We knew it was worth the debate. It was worth the discord. It was worth the fight, because ultimately, including the people who were against it, they were going to love it. I was, like you said, marketing and communications in those days. So I heard a lot from people, all over the spectrum of opinions. But I really deeply believed, even if you were worried about what we were doing, we're building something for you that you would love. I think that intention matters. We spent a lot of time in neighborhoods on the Green Line before we built that project out, talking to people about their anxieties. And the truth is that if someone wanted to build a trail, through my backyard, I would want to understand who was doing that and what their plans were. We also had a lot of data from all over the country that showed us that when you put these kinds of urban trails in, they are always a positive contributor. They are generally safe. Anywhere where you have a lot of people using it, if it's popular, there are a lot of eyes on it, generally safe. We knew that it would increase property values. We knew that people would love having it. And you need leaders that have that level of confidence and belief to move these things forward.
Yeah. We're here. I remind everyone we're here with Jen Andrews. She's CEO of Shelby Farms. I'm going to say it wrong again. Well, it's literally written down in front of me. Jen Andrews is CEO of
Shelby Farms Park Conservancy.
Okay, I have to say it right. I said it wrong. Anyway, and I'm Eric Barnes. This is the Sidebar. We'll come back to Jen here in just a second, talk about some upcoming things going on right now and coming up soon in the park. But I'll remind everyone that the Sidebar airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of a number of weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including the Memphis Grizzlies podcast and our food podcast, Soundbites, which also airs on WYXR every Thursday at 11. I mentioned WKNO. We also, at the Daily Memphian, we host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines. And all of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. You can get this show and Soundbites, the food show, at wyxr.org. You can also get it on the app, and you can listen to all the WYXR shows there, talk and music. There's archives of past shows for all the various DJs and hosts of shows here on WYXR. If you're not a supporter of WYXR, do consider becoming a member or just a one-off donation. If you become a member, you get all kinds of benefits. That's all on the site. And if you're not a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian, as I mentioned, we are a nonprofit. We're the largest newsroom in the area, but paid subscriptions pay for more than half of what we do, advertising and so on, and a little bit of philanthropy pays for the rest. Coming up soon on the sidebar, the American Bridge League, which is headquartered in Memphis, and I am very excited about this. And it's going to be super interesting and incredibly wonky. I've never played bridge. I like to play cards, but I just am fascinated by bridge people, bridge tournaments, the whole thing about it. Natalie Van Gundy has set this up and has something to say that she's going to add to the podcast right now.
I think it's headquartered.
The American Bridge, it used to be headquartered here, actually. They may have moved some of it, but they have a big Memphis connection. So I'm fighting Natalie Van Gundy on this right now in real time. Somewhat recently, I had to take a bit of a break, but we recently had Todd Richardson from Crosstown talking about all things Crosstown, as well as the new venue that since then more information has come out about. Adize Wilford from the Brooks Art Museum was on, and we had Paul Chandler from GPAC on as well. And you can get all those shows wherever you get your podcasts or go to Daily Memphian or WYXR. Behind the headlines this week, we've got CJ Davis, the police chief. We had her on about 3 years ago. She came back on. It was a really great, really, difficult and interesting conversation about all the complexities of the criminal justice system and public safety. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've also got a show about local restaurants and those opening, those closing, and all the kind of dynamics that are going on there. Recently, a couple weeks ago, we had our annual Women in Business seminar. Jen was there. She's been on the panel in the past, but she was there. In part, Tina Sullivan, the former head of our friend Jen and mine, former head of OPC was there. Ursula Madden was there. Lee Mansberg was there. You can get video of that on YouTube. Just search for Daily Memphian or go to the Daily Memphian site and search for Women in Business. But we're back here with Jen Andrews from the Shelby Farms Conservancy thing. And she is CEO. Things going on in the park. There's always a lot going on beyond just the people. Again, we're sitting here in your office and I can look out the window and there are people just wonderfully doing nothing. But there's all kinds of activities and events and such. What do you want to highlight?
Yeah. Well, it's spring break. So we've had a ton of visitors this week, which is great. Spring break every year is when we open all of our recreation activities for the season. So now we have boats, bikes open both at Hyde Lake and at Pine Lake, which is the lake by the playground. You can do paddle boats up there. At Hyde Lake, you can do stand-up paddle boards, kayaks, and canoes. It's very, very fun. We also have our Earth Day celebrations coming up on April 18th. This is our longest running event. It's the very first event we ever produced, I think back in 2007. And that's going to be really fun. It's a free event. There's a family fun run. There's a festival with, kids zone. Kids can come make eco-friendly crafts, lots of vendors and booths, music, food trucks. It's going to be a good time. I also wanted to mention that we recently renovated our disc golf course. Our disc golf course is really popular, but it has truly been in a state of disrepair for a while. While we've been super focused on Heart of the Park and building out all of these big capital projects, we just ended up looking at it recently and saying this is not really at the quality level that the local disc golf community deserves. So we were able to raise some money to do that, and it's a brand new 18-hole disc golf course and fairly highly rated, which we're excited about. And we're going to do, we've done a soft opening. People are already playing, but there will be a half-day tournament on May 3rd to sort of welcome the community to the new facility. My team also wanted me to promote a new effort called Litter Getter. We're encouraging
Wait,
people.
Is it Litter Getter?
Litter Getter.
Getter.
A little bit of a southern accent there.
Yeah. No.
We want you to get some litter.
Get it.
So, most of the people who come to this park, the feedback I get is that they can't believe how clean it is. And that is
It is.
That
It's
is
amazing.
not because people aren't littering. And we choose to believe it's all accidental. That I choose to believe that.
Yeah.
But
I choose to believe that at night before you go home, you walk around and you pick trash up.
It's early in the morning for me,
Okay,
but I did it this morning.
Morning coffee, just kind of
Yes, that's literally what I did this morning. I took my litter bucket into the coffee shop to get my coffee at the visitor center. On a really beautiful Saturday, my team could spend collectively 12 hours a day just pulling trash and picking up litter.
Yeah.
It is an incredible effort. And that's not to shame people necessarily. It's a huge park and it's windy and things blow away and there are, people with kids here. Like things happen, we get it. But it is a huge, huge effort all of the time. Every single person on this team picks up litter. So this Litter Getter campaign, you can sign up to be part of this. You use the Litterati app. And so you can take pictures of the litter and it sort of aggregates where we're seeing a lot of litter and what types. And then we set goals for how many pieces of litter we want to pick up as a community. So we want to pick up 25,000 pieces of litter in 2025.
Wow.
And we have more than enough litter to meet that goal.
Is that partly, do you have volunteers who are part of that as well?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. I saw some out yesterday. We've been promoting this effort and people just show up and we give them a volunteer vest and a grabber and a bucket. You can see mine sitting right behind you there.
Nice.
And they go out and they use the app and they pick up litter. So people get volunteer hours for it. Some people just want to do it because it's, they're already walking in the park. Yeah. So why not just grab some litter while they're there? It really takes all of us to keep it this clean. We're very committed to making sure that it's always clean, but it's a huge, huge, heavy lift.
I mentioned Todd Richardson at Crosstown we had on the show, and Todd's a friend, and I've lived in Crosstown now for 7.5 years or something. And there's a bit of a collective effort there. And to walk around with Todd is to have him walk in this kind of serpentine fashion where he's like mid-conversation with you, leaning over to the left, picking up something.
Very familiar.
It just, you can't not do it. And then as somebody who's lived there a long time, I'm kind of a little bit of part of the picking up trash too. So.
Yeah. Once you
say part of the problem. I know. I was about to. I almost said that, sort of like, oh, I'm part of the problem. I'll throw stuff when Todd's not looking. That's not true.
I think once you're an operator, once you see through those eyes, you kind of can't turn it off. I pick up litter everywhere I go, and I also get curious about operational decisions everywhere I go. I'm clocking which bathrooms have a door that don't work or, which trash cans need to be placed differently to be more effective. And, we went to a restaurant the other day and I said, they're not mopping with a degreaser. That's the problem. Is that the floor is slippery and people don't want to do it because it adds another step because you have to do a regular mop after. And, of course, my partner is like, why? Why is this our life? It just is.
I love that, actually. I can't, anyway, I have my versions of that, what I won't talk about. But we should check in with Tina, 1 year from her stepping down from OPC. Can she walk past a piece of litter or can she not? Yeah. Can she see a public restroom and not begin assessing and taking notes? I wonder where her state of mind is.
As her friend, I could tell you, I bet she's relieved that it doesn't fall to her ultimately, but you never stop seeing that way. And you never stop feeling accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk a bit about, I know one thing we want to talk about was the dragon boats. Partly because Natalie Van Gundy brought it up, and who's sitting right next to me. Dragon boats are here now, which I lost track of that post-COVID. Because they used to do a dragon boat race kind of in the Wolf River.
Two different events.
They're two different events. They still do that one as well.
They do not do that one anymore. Do that one, that one doesn't happen anymore. This is a different group.
Okay.
It's a community organization that produces this one. And slightly different than the old model, but a beautiful event. The dragon boats themselves are gorgeous. It's fun just to have them in the water a few days in advance and see people going up to look at them and take pictures of them. But they have a little festival that they produce with it, so they've got interesting vendors and music and all kinds of things.
When I lived in New York, one of the really fun things to do, the Macy's Day Parade was just kind of miserable and touristy and all that. But the night before, you could go up. This was back when you could live on the Upper West Side and have student loans at the same time, which you can't do anymore. But back 30 plus years ago, you could do that. And they would be blowing up all the what do they call the floats? And is that what they call the balloons? They're called balloons. I really haven't done this in a long time, have I? The balloons. And it was so cool. Those little kind of preview kind of things are sometimes even cooler than the actual. So with the dragon boats, that's pretty cool. So. Yeah. I was struck, I was on the website kind of looking at things and see what was going on before we started. And there's a funny part of the site, or it struck me as funny. The site is broken down by kind of, I guess it's how you might be approaching the park. So it's dogs or on foot or water or amenities or hiking or running. It is an interesting thing. And you're talking about the disc golf reminds me, on a practical level, you have an amazing number of constituents who use the park in a particular way. and maybe don't always really care as much about the playground. They care about the disc golf, or they care about the disc golf. They don't care about the dogs. And that is an interesting thing, I think, I would imagine, to sort of manage the ways in which some people come here to go have dinner and sit and look out at the water. They're all valid, but they all want their priority to be the priority, I would imagine.
Yes, and that's exactly how we think about it, is constituent groups. And this is relevant for marketing and fundraising, but also just for public input and understanding what people want to see. So we try to build out these lists of constituent groups so that we can communicate with people in the way that's relevant to them. Because you're exactly right. In a park this size, most people don't care about every single opportunity here. They really care deeply about the thing that they come and do. And a lot of people come and do multiple things. But, if you're an everyday dog park user, we may never see you. If you don't come down to the visitor center, we're a small team. We can't be everywhere all the time. We don't really know you that well. We would love to, but we don't. If you're someone who comes to the visitor center every day and gets coffee, I would know you by sight probably. I may not know your name, but I'm clocking you when you're here because I see you.
Right.
And then there's, south of Walnut Grove, there's, 1,000 acres of woodland that we also manage, the Wolf River Trails in that area, in the Lucius Birch Natural Area. Another remote area where we're not there every single day. We're there as much as we can be. But all of these groups have different priorities, different interests. What's most important to us is that we build a relationship with them that allows them to understand that we care about every interest equally. None of these interests, and some of them are in conflict. Dogs and bikes don't always play well together, if they're sharing a trail, or horses and bikes, or, I'm not trying to pick on bikes. We value all of our visitors, but
a lot of the dogs is what you're picking on there, basically.
I would never pick on dogs.
My thing about dogs, by the way, I love dogs. Not so crazy the older I get about dog owners.
Well,
I won't put you. You don't have to. You can do no comment.
I will say probably my greatest job perk is that I get to pet everybody's dogs.
Yeah.
And I do feel entitled to do that.
Yeah, you should.
And maybe there are people listening who are like, dogs. I did see a crazy lady fly out of the visitor center to come pet my dog. I saw 2 little French bulldogs yesterday, and I just had to go out there and meet them. So shout out to Sage and Slate. They were awesome. And often I know the dog's name, but not the owner's. All visitors love the park. And so we have shared values. And the important thing is getting different disparate groups to understand and respect each other's values.
Yeah. We're almost out of time here with Jen Andrews, CEO of Shelby Farms Park Conservancy. Yes! Nailed it right off the piece of paper. But I know I've done this with you before, but it's been forever because it was during Zoom and COVID. What was your first concert that you went to?
Okay. When my mother was pregnant with me, she went to 3 Dog Night at Mud Island. So I kind of feel like
that's big.
Kind of feel
that's
like that.
Good. That's a first on a lot of fronts.
I think that the next one I went to, outside the womb.
Yes. Usually it's the first one you've been to, then the first one you paid for. So you got to do 3. So we've got inside the womb, outside the womb, and then the first one you paid for.
I really think the next one was Brooks and Dunn.
Oh, nice.
When I was in elementary school.
Would that have been Pyramid?
I think it was at the Pyramid, yeah.
First one you went to more by choice. Those were...
It would have been something at Memphis in May, probably. Okay. Yeah. I do remember a big group of friends going to see Matchbox 20. It was really dating myself.
Some acid wash jeans, maybe that kind of situation.
No, little post that.
It was post that? Okay.
That would have been, probably around 9th grade, so 1999-ish.
Yeah. No, that's great. If people want to learn more about, you mentioned just some of the things that are coming up. It's Shelby. They can search for Shelby Farms, but isn't it shelbyfarms.org?
Shelbyfarmspark.org. Catch us on the socials.
Yeah. Okay. Jen, thank you so much. That is all the time we have this week. If you missed any of the show, you can get the full episode on WYXR, at the Daily Memphian, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.